Hi, and welcome to Pursuit 365 Spirituality Show. I'm your host, Rani Sanghera, holistic healer, registered yoga teacher, psychedelic guide, and coach. Today, I'm very excited for our next guest. His name is Atta Emami. He is a yoga studio owner and a coach. Welcome to the show, Atta.
Thank you so much, Ronnie. Hello, everyone. Thanks for having me.
So,
I'm
why
very
don't
excited.
we begin by you telling us a little bit about yourself?
Uh, I think you said it all. I do own a yoga studio in West Vancouver. I'm also very interested in human development. So I've been doing executive coaching since 2012. And yeah, practice and teach yoga in Vancouver and work with humans about developmental areas of their lives. And yeah, and I also swim in the ocean. That's me.
So, what inspired you to become a life coach?
That's a great question. I was doing an MBA when I had a real job, and in 2006, 2007, a breakfast with one of the professors who was an executive coach and taught a small segment of leadership. I just clicked for me that my passion, really, the managerial life I had, is really around the people side of leadership and management. And since then, I oriented more towards studying deeply about human development and adult development and how, like organizational psychology, and how people behave the way they do in settings that they are in, be it at home, be it at work, be it an organization they're in. And yeah, I've been dedicated a lot of my time in that. Yeah, that was the initial inspiration.
Nice. And what role does spirituality play in your coaching?
I love that question. So I am using, and feel free to guide me, Ronnie. I'm using a model through the coaching that I do, which is integral coaching, which is basically making an application of integral theory, and is basically looking at any topic of all angles possible. So one of the lines of human development, so I'm looking pure philosophical, theoretical part that was very intriguing to me. I didn't even know this exists. Is actually spirituality. So a spiritual line of development is required for any adult or human being for them to up their game. And obviously, there are some executives that the S word doesn't even come to play with in their way of showing up.
Mhm.
And partly, I think there's a lot of spirituality boutiques out there, and there's some resistant to it and some not. But it's absolute must for a human to develop, to further develop their vertical spirituality development, not horizontal development, is
Mhm.
absolute essential for them to uh, participate in the development of their spirituality.
Hmm. I definitely agree with you there. Can you share a transformational experience or success story from your coaching practice?
Oof. I like to say there are many, and there are usually many. I'll give a generic one if you don't mind, and
Yeah.
I'll hopefully I'll give a specific one. You know the the gift and privilege of participating in a co-creative space with another human being or a team. I do both one-on-one and team coaching. Is that when you see sometimes it clicks when they're willing to give themselves permission that in this co-creative space to drop to a deeper level. And I'm going to use the magic word. Magic happens because they drop whatever is in their cognition, trust there's this wisdom that spirituality line of development is part of it, that when you drop at the bottom of your Excel, trust that there's this more subtle layers of consciousness that we can access. And most of us can't because of the business of the life and, I don't know, Slack messages, emails, bills, everything else. But when you drop that noise and trust that there's wisdom within you, and when you witness that, to me, it's like I haven't done anything more exciting than that in my life ever since I've experienced it long time ago now, over a decade ago. So it's a gift and a privilege. I have so there's many of those stories. One that It's not even an executive, but I was asked to work with somebody who was working in the kitchen of a company. He wasn't even a part of the company, but he was a young guy. I see his career trajectory over the course of 5 years. He went from when I was telling him to work on yourself to a place of, hey, like I have no food in the fridge. What
Mm,
are you talking about? And then seeing how he trusted this wisdom within him. And I don't take ownership of any of the things that happened, but see him trusting and believing that there's something within him, and he actually tapped into his spirituality. I don't know if you can mention it or not, but one of the like a primary religions that are out there, he was very uh, relying on that particular prophet, and that was my entry with him in. And
mhm,
next thing you know, he became an account executive and sales guy over the course of 5 years, was making, I don't know, 8 times more than anybody else in that world, and many more than even like materially he was in a far different place. And just seeing that trajectory, and all from a glimpse of clicking and dropping deep and trusting a wisdom that was within him. So
mm.
that's one of the things that just in this moment came to me to share. So
Yeah, that's beautiful. And really, spirituality is about finding that faith in yourself. Because once you find that faith, then the possibilities are limitless, really, because you believe in yourself and you think you can do it, and so you can overcome any challenges that sort of show up for you.
absolutely, yeah, it gives you that extra capacity. And I did a hopefully it's not a tangent, but I did it when I was studying and applying initially years ago, working on transformational change for organizations. I realized this pattern, Ronnie, that most of transformational change is actually like about 70-80% fail in organizations because it's gnarly, it's hard, nobody's ever done it before. But the ones that I picked, and it wasn't even in many of the case studies that were successful, the F factor was there. The leadership team have faith. They had
Mm,
faith in something deeper within them and in the power of their collective. And that wasn't there for almost all the ones who failed. So at a collective level, I agree. Obviously, at the personal level as well, that's the thing that you don't see anything as a problem or obstacle. You see them as a stepping stone or
mm.
as an opportunity to work on something rather than this is it and I can't do anything. You trust, to your point. Anyways, you said it better.
So, in your coaching practice, how do you integrate, well, or do you even integrate mindfulness practices and meditation and other spiritual techniques?
Most of the time, I do it explicitly, and sometimes I do it, like implicitly, covertly. But mostly it's overt. And I just want to say this that we are doing this, and it's in the Mental Health Awareness Month. And beauty of these days, especially if I work sometimes with like executives who have engineering background, but thanks to the past at least decade, there's so much data in neuroscience validating what you just said, validating the importance of mindfulness and
Yeah.
meditation, both and practices into anybody's repertoire, especially, I had this interview I heard from His Holiness Dalai Lama, and somebody asked him, how much do you meditate? And he asked the guy, it depends. And so, can you say more? He says, well, if I have a busy day or if I don't have a busy day. I said, well, can you share both? He said, if I don't have a busy day, I'm in my, ashram or sangha, I meditate about an hour a day. But if I'm traveling or I have to go do interviews and, conferences and everything, I make sure I meditate at least 2 hours those days. And that to me, that level of development, it just like that's all you need to hear. And I share it with and the ones bare minimum, I invite people to do breathing. And I
Mm,
and these days, neuroscience, any high performing athletes and any special forces, emergency medical teams, all of them use different breathing techniques and scientifically proven, and you can give them like, I have these devices I was going to show, the HRV, can heart rate variability. It shows, there's a negative correlation between your stress level and your HRV. So it's just that now, because it's evidence based, it's easier than maybe it was me, but 10 years ago, it was a lot more resistant. I mean, say, hey, do
yeah.
you want meditate. I'm like, I don't have time. I'm like, exactly, because you don't have time. You need to actually spend time to meditate. Then it will expand the time in your life.
Yeah. Yeah. And the breath is the gateway. It's the gateway to interpersonal healing. It's the gateway to spirituality. It is always one of the first things that I will teach a client how to do is a different types of breath work.
Yeah, I've been privileged to be in yoga sessions that you've led, Ronnie, and it just tapping into that wisdom that is within you again by a guide, like in that case, you in this example. It's
Mm,
just you go to a place that sometimes uh, I don't want to explain it because I think everybody should give themselves the permission to experience it firsthand. But it's quite powerful. Its breath is the gateway for sure.
yeah. And I don't, it's even hard to put into words to try to explain it to anyone. It is really something that is experiential knowledge.
100%. Yeah.
Yeah. So tell me a little bit about how you found yourself in the yoga world.
Yeah. Thank you. Long time ago, I was like 18, 19. I grew up in Tehran, Iran, and I had an aversion to what was going on around that particular sentiment of a religion that was in the system. But I always had this like inner question of why am I here? What's going on? And I tap into this retreat that was transcendental meditation, and it was like a kind of a secretive that going to this ski resort in the summer doing transcendental meditation for a week. And right before that thing that we signed up, we had to go to this house, and we, for the first time, I was like 19, they taught us like, I don't know, 12 different yoga poses. They said, these are the things you need to do because you're going to go sit a lot longer. And they explained to us these poses, yoga poses, will help you. And there was a yoga teacher there. So that's where I got hooked and connected for me the mind and the somatics, connected to
Mm,
me the importance of connecting and integrating how your body moves with your mind. So that was the initial thing. And then years later in, I don't know, 2001 2, I went to a yoga class. It was an Iyengar class. And yeah, the rest is history. uh,
yeah, you are a registered yoga instructor, but what was it that made you take that leap from instructor to business owner?
I will not say the first few things that comes to my mind, but I was when I was going to, I went to this very advanced, like master level coaching program in Ottawa, Canada, um, with basically integrally informed coaching for 2 years. And while I was basically a junior coach, I was a student in the program. I was so inspired by giving people yoga practices, which in the surface had nothing to do with the topic they were bringing these senior leaders and CEOs and executives that I was voluntarily coaching. I saw how much that catapulted them to get to the topics they were bringing in, and at first had no immediate links, but they would link the mind and the topic to the body after they would do that yin yoga, restorative yoga, or just a yoga pose. And that inspired me, Ronnie, so much that I thought, okay, what if I could have a center that we teach and practice yoga? And as you know, there are two small offices in my yoga studio. I thought we can basically make this a center, like a wellness center, do coaching and yoga together.
Mhm.
Plan didn't plan out that way, but that was the inspiration behind it.
Thank you. The other question I have for you is about what role spirituality plays in business, and maybe a little tag on to that of there's this, what's the word I'm looking for? Sometimes owning a business seems like this glamorous thing, and it's not always that. So maybe you can share how your spirituality has helped you through the times that have not been so great with owning a business.
Yeah. Uh, I would say that's such a powerful question, Ronnie. And every time I personally struggled, I can look back at all the times since we started this journey. We just passed our 12th year anniversary in April at Om Prem Yoga Studio. Every time I've struggled over the past 12 years, it's been the time that in that moment in time, I was disconnected from spirituality. And
Mm-hmm.
what makes it hard, to your point, is that every time I can remember, because of all the noises that are in the system, we miss the signal from the noise because there's too much noise, too much comparison, too much competition. And then when you connect to that deeper place and you find the signal, you realize you have no competition. And there's nothing or no one to compare yourself with. Trusting to that wisdom and whatever may happen later or in the moment. And I'm not saying don't do the work. It's not, to me, spirituality is not you're sitting and meditating and trusting that people are going to walk in the door. You still have to very proactively do the work.
Mm-hmm.
But you don't see it, in my opinion, as this word that is becoming a trend like hustle. I don't see it as a hustle. You trust that you're, as long as you're connected to that signal amongst all the noise, to me, that's what I find helpful and actually an important ingredient, especially if you're walking into holding like an ancient wisdom tradition like yoga. To me, that makes it extra sacred, in my opinion.
Mm. Yeah, I agree with you. Um, so, what are some of your favorite spiritual practices to do yourself?
Yeah. I won't mention any names, but when I was 19, 20, I ran into some bunch of books from this Sufi lineage holder. Then is like a west part of Iran in Kurdish area, Kurdistan of Iran. And what was fascinating for me was, and he has had a profound impact in my way of showing up in life, and is that he gave all that up in service of doing something even bigger in the world of spirituality. And I was like, imagine you are basically at the peak of having like lots of followers and everything else. Like imagine become like a, I don't know, what is it, like a billion Instagram followers, and you quit all that to do something else. I was like, what? And then another thing that was very mind blowing for me as a 19-year-old kid, not liking what was going on with, the religion that was basically forced in people in Iran, was he was believing in like successive lives. And I was like, what? As a 19-year-old, you can basically this like, we talk about it in yoga, you and I, and hopefully most of your audience are familiar with it. So that definitely massively shifted my perspective. So I still go back to his teachings on a
Mm,
regular basis, like reading, practicing, and it was all very practical. And the two elements of his practice that is like I found very profound is that he says, basically, you want to walk in this life, you need to do these two things: constant, like 24/7, constant connection to the source, capital
mm,
S. And the
mhm.
second one, be of service to mankind and humanity. And yeah.
Yeah,
The
and
other
I
thing, sorry, go ahead.
sorry, go ahead.
So the other thing I do daily, I'm a student of Zen Buddhism. So I do shikantaza in Japanese, which is kind of boring, I guess, for these days, but I just sit. So I have a, in my opinion, deep sitting practice. And I practice yoga, obviously, but these are the things I do.
You had mentioned being in service to others, which is something that I see. I've worked with you, and I think one of the most beautiful things about working with you is that you're always trying to help others. You're always trying to help someone else in their career move forward. I mean, you've been so supportive of everything that I've done in the last few years that we've known each other, and I love that. I love that about you, and I'm sure that, and I know that you bring that to your coaching, and there's an element of that, but yeah. What is the name of the Sufi, if you don't mind sharing?
Uh,
You don't have to, but maybe
yeah,
some of our listeners want to know.
yeah, it's like I'm not sure if I'm have the privilege to do, because
Ah,
he's like,
okay.
but you can probably look into his work if you go to ostadalahi.com. But I don't. I've never, obviously, well, he passed away before I was born. I don't feel I've earned the right to call myself his student, but his name is ostadalahi.com. His website is ostadalahi.com.
Okay. Well, thank you for sharing that with us. Now, you have a very special yoga studio. What other special ceremonies and rituals do you offer other than just teaching yoga? Because yoga is so multifaceted and is spirituality is just woven throughout all of it, right?
Yeah. Honestly, we've talked about these things here and there before, Ronnie. To me, and yoga is like we just do small aspects of it in my studio, because there's just like in the lineage of Shira Aurobindo, which Purna yoga is based on. We have these four components of yoga, and you tell me, you lead the conversation. The four elements are like, first is applied philosophy, the other one is meditation, the third one is nutrition, the fourth one, half of it is like an asana practice which happens in a studio, and the other half is breathing, pranayama.
Mm,
So I would love, and I do it not all through the studio, but the other rituals, to your point, is that how can we bring applied philosophy? How can we bring your yoga therapy that you're doing? Because that to deepening and anchoring somebody into their body a lot deeper than in a
mm,
class with like 15 people. Even though that's like a max people can be in our it's a boutique small size studio. How can we bring like a yoga nidra to them? Like Amrit's lineage is like such a profound impact in me personally. I feel like the yoga nidra I've done with you and like Deviki has deepened my meditation practice.
mm,
I would Had I not experienced it, if somebody would have told me this, I would have said, "There's no way that yoga nidra would do that to me." So that has had such a. So I'm like grateful to the Emirate lineage to have amazing teachers like you guys, and so that's another one. I mean, Zen Buddhism has a beautiful is this mixed Japanese rituals. Is like a
mm.
because it's a way for you to kind of like anchor down. Like I mean, Sufis do it, Christians, Judaism, all Kabbalah, all of it have beautiful ones.
Yes.
And, I guess the other one I do in the studio is that the applied philosophy, like like a mental health month, awareness month. I'm like a trainer with HeartMath Institute. I'm bringing breathing techniques because I'm a certified trainer, I can bring them like a snack. I put like free complimentary breathing techniques that anybody can do with their eyes open, like just something that they can do around. They don't even have to come to the studio. So things like that.
Yeah. Beautiful. And I know you offer yoga nidra as well, which is a sleep based yoga practice, essentially. So I think that's a beautiful offering. Um,
Yeah.
are there things that you would? What's the question? What's the question? What would you highlight about your coaching services?
Um, the only prerequisite that I have is that, especially when I work for leaders, is that they have to genuinely care for human beings, and that's like a benchmark. Um, but the highlight is that when they're after their transformation, so it's not like a situational, although it happens. Like I want people who are after something deeper, more profound. I know there's like a camp that they say, okay, you have these strengths, keep working on your strengths, but as a human being, in order for us to have vertical developments and after breakthroughs, we have to go after depth. And so I love to work and have privilege. I work with hundreds of people because I do team coaching as well, who are mostly after going something more deep and more meaningful and powerful. So to me, that breakthrough aspects of coaching is very meaningful because I've witnessed it, experienced it. I don't take ownership of, because it happens when the person in front of you or the team in front of you doing it. And that's to me what I would highlight is somebody who's after a breakthrough or transformational change for themselves or their teams. That's what excites me to work with people.
And what does spirituality mean to you?
Yeah, it's like, like a being able to enter this moment in the immediacy of this generous present moment and trust that all I need to do is to be in this moment here now, not worry about the past or the future or what's going to be the outcome of this or that, or did I miss a phone call or something. It's just to me, that's what the spirituality is like. Be here now.
Hmm.
You know?
That's pretty much the very first sutra of Patanjali's sutras. Be here now. Be here.
Yeah, like if I may share this, I joke with people that my name starts with the Patanjali Sutras because Atta Yoga Anushasana, even though I'm say that
Funny
first,
problem.
don't just- but yeah,
Yoga happens now. Life happens now.
it wasn't in my
Spirituality
name, but thank you
happens
for bringing it up.
now. Yeah.
Yeah. Thank you, thank you so much for that. Yeah, totally, absolutely.
Is there anything you want to highlight that's coming up for the studio, or any special offerings that you will be showcasing through the studio or through your coaching?
Yeah, thank you. I'm doing it's like a almost a day long. We do it in 2.5 days at the end of May, like June 1st, we kick it off. They can check to ompremyoga.com, look at the workshops. It's called Change Your Mind, Create New Results. It's like a set of, it's a like a day long worth of content, and then it's like a year long program to support it. It's based on Dr. Joe Dispenza's work. It's based on neuroscience and how you can basically transform yourself by changing your mind to create new results in your life. It's pretty powerful. That's the only thing that is upcoming. I'm waiting for Ronnie to put some workshops in our studio. But other than that, this is the only thing that is happening, and it's inspired by this month being the Mental Health Awareness Month to work on your mind.
Wonderful. Thank you so much for your time, Ada. I'm very grateful that you made the time to come here and speak to us.
Oh,
Okay.
I'm like privileged. Thank you so much for inviting me. Thank you to all your audience who's been hearing me out, and yeah, I look forward to hearing any questions anybody has. Please send them my way. I would love to anything about applied philosophy, yoga, mindfulness practices. I'm more than happy to be of service. Thank you so much.
You're welcome. Thanks again, and hopefully we will speak again soon.
Yeah, looking forward to it. Thank you.